Hello friends, I welcome you all here at TNV Academy. In this session, we are going to talk about clause 8.5.2 Service Design and Transition of an international standard ISO IEC 20000-1 2018 Information Technology Service Management. In this session, we shall cover all the requirements of clause 8.5.2 Service Design and Transition in detail along with appropriate examples. As the requirements of the clause 8.5.2 depends on the requirements of clause 6, clause 7, clause 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4 and clause 8.5. I would like to recommend you referring these clauses of ISO 20000-1 2018. Also, for better understanding of clause 8.5.2. Now, the mandatory documentation requirements as evidence or proof under this clause 8.5.2 are: under clause 8.5.2.2, the new or changed services shall be designed and documented to meet the service requirements determined in clause 8.2.2. Let's discuss about the outcome of this session. After completing this session, you will be enabled to understand service design and transition requirements necessary to support the operation of the SMS and the services. Now, let's have an introduction of clause 8.5.2 Service Design and Transition. The clause 8.5.2 regulates service design and transition. It includes service plans, service designs, and regulates builds and transitions. It has three subclauses. Subclause 8.5.2.1 Plan new or changed services. Subclause 8.5.2.2 Design and Subclause 8.5.2.3 Build and Transition. Let me explain the subclause 8.5.2.1 Plan new or changed services. Subclause 8.5.2.1 Plan new or changed services is to set plans before live services. This plan includes several things contained in standard documents which I shall explain later. This clause also regulates services that undergo deletion and transfer. CI also need to be considered. According to the clause, planning shall use the service requirements for the new or changed services determined in subclause 8.2.2 and shall include or contain a reference to authorities and responsibilities for design, build, and transition activities. It shall also include reference to the activities to be performed by the organization or other parties with their timescales. This subclause 8.5.2.1 shall contain a reference to human, technical, information, and financial resources along with the dependencies on other services. It shall also include testing needed for the new or changed services and service acceptance criteria. Clause says that it shall contain intended outcomes from delivering the new or changed services, expressed in measurable terms, and also the impact on the service management system, other services, planned changes, customers, users, and other interested parties. For services that are to be removed, the planning shall additionally include the date or dates for the removal of the services and the activities for archiving, disposal, or transfer of data, documented information, and service components. For services that are to be transferred, the planning shall additionally include the date or dates for the transfer of the services and the activities for the transfer of data, documented information, knowledge, and service components. The CI affected by new or changed services shall be managed through configuration management. Let me explain now the subclause 8.5.2.2 Design. The subclause 8.5.2.2 Design specifies that the new or changed services shall be designed and documented to meet the service requirements determined in clause 8.2.2. The design shall include relevant items like point 1. Authorities and responsibilities of the parties involved in the delivery of the new or changed services. Point 2. Requirements for changes to human, technical, information, and financial resources. Point 3. Requirements for appropriate education, training, and experience. Point 4. New or changed SLAs, contracts, and other documented agreements that support the services. Point 5. Changes to the SMS, including new or changed policies, plans, processes, procedures, measures, and knowledge. Point 6. Impact on other services. Point 7. Updates to the service catalogs. Coming to the subclause 8.5.2.3 Build and Transition now. Clause 8.5.2.3 regulates the build and transition process. The subclause 8.5.2.3 Build and Transition says that the new or changed services shall be built and tested to verify that they meet the service requirements, conform to the documented design, and meet the agreed service acceptance criteria. If the service acceptance criteria are not met, the organization and interested parties shall make a decision on necessary actions and deployment. Release and deployment management shall be used to deploy approved new or changed services into the live environment. Following the completion of transition activities, the organization shall report to interested parties on the achievements against the intended outcomes. So, to summarize subclause 8.5.2.3, we can say services that are built need to be made and go through the stages of testing, verification, and meeting the requirements. The service also needs to be in accordance with documented design. If it turns out there are requirements that have not been met, there needs to be a follow-up agreement from the relevant parties. Release and deployment need to be used when transitioning in a live environment. This transition process needs to be continually communicated to related parties. Now, coming to the non-conformity. Please see the Auditor Finding Action Report NC on screen for writing non-conformities under this clause. I leave it up to you now. Please go through this and try to understand the various components of this non-conformance report. Now, let me talk in brief about the common mistakes auditors do while auditing. It is highly recommended that being an auditor, you should avoid some common mistakes like reporting of findings without verifying evidence, ignoring the facts, asking irrelevant questions to the organization, and start consulting activities with the client, etc. Auditors should avoid these kind of mistakes which are very common in nature during the audits. So friends, now we have reached at the end of this session. I hope that you have an idea about clause 8.5.2 Service Design and Transition of ISO IEC 20001 2018 Information Technology Service Management Standard. I sincerely thank you all for your interest and attention. Thanks and best wishes.